I've never been one to shy away from the truth, even when the truth is as ugly as it is liberating. I'm posting this here because I need to vent, and maybe someone else out there is wrestling with the kind of betrayal that nearly broke them. I didn't think a breakup could be so corrosive, but nothing could prepare me for the aftermath of my relationship, and more importantly, for my subsequent rebirth. It all started on an ordinary Tuesday. My girlfriend of 3 years, Lisa, casually dropped the bombshell. She needed a break. Her words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. I need time to figure things out. There's someone else, she admitted, almost as if confessing a secret she'd been nursing for months. The calm tone in her voice made it even harder to believe. I sat there, dumbfounded, feeling a slow burning fury mixed with disbelief. The idea that she could choose someone else over all we'd built together was as unreal as it was painful. In those first agonizing hours, I relived every shared memory. Our late-night talks, the inside jokes, and the dreams we'd spun about a future together. They all felt like lies now. Every minute detail I once held dear was contaminated by her betrayal. But as the shock subsided, a more potent feeling took over: resolve. I realized that I deserved better than a half-hearted relationship, and that the kind of love I needed wasn't one that could be so casually discarded. I decided then and there that I wouldn't be dragged down by her mistakes, so I packed my bags and left the only life I'd ever known. I moved to a new city, a place where every street, every face, and every moment could help me forget the ghost of Lisa. I found a small apartment downtown, a modest but comfortable space that was entirely mine. I immersed myself in work, joined a gym, and even started exploring hobbies I'd long ignored. Each day became a chance to rebuild my identity from the ashes of our failed relationship. The more I focused on self-improvement, the more I began to relish the freedom that came with starting over. For months, I convinced myself that I had closed that chapter of my life. I wasn't alone in the bustling city. New friends, interesting work projects, and a surprisingly fulfilling routine gave me a sense of purpose. But then, the unthinkable happened. Lisa found me. At first, it was just subtle. I'd catch a glimpse of her reflection in a cafe window when I wasn't paying attention, or find a name in my phone's call log that I couldn't immediately place. My initial thought was that I was being paranoid, that maybe my mind was still haunted by memories of her. However, soon enough, the signs escalated. I began to notice her car parked outside my apartment building on more than one occasion. I'd find mysterious, unsigned messages scrawled on my doorstep. Nothing overtly threatening, but enough to unnerve me. The realization was as clear as it was horrifying. She was stalking me. I don't think I've ever felt so violated. The sense of control that had been restored by moving away was slowly eroding under the relentless scrutiny of someone I once loved. I wasn't about to let that happen again. I invested in a security system, changed my daily routes, and even went to the police to file a report. They took my complaint seriously enough to note it down, but there was little they could do without concrete evidence of harassment. In the meantime, I had to be vigilant. Every day became a test of my newfound strength as I balanced the demands of my revitalized life with the ever-present fear of her intrusion. Just when I thought I had enough on my plate, her parents reached out. I was stunned by the phone call from her mother one chilly evening, apologizing profusely for what Lisa had done. The conversation was surreal. She admitted that Lisa had been selfish and erratic for as long as I could remember, but that she had always been the favorite, and now she was finally seeing the light. The apology felt less like a sincere regret and more like a manipulative attempt to soften me up, to get me to let her back in. I listened politely, but I didn't let my guard down. Their words were nothing more than a bitter reminder that some people are too invested in their own twisted version of what's right, even if it meant denying the truth of what they'd done. The situation reached a boiling point when Lisa herself decided to confront me. One evening, as I was leaving work, I found her waiting outside the building. She looked different. Her usual confident smirk was replaced by desperation, and her eyes, once so full of dismissive arrogance, now pleaded for forgiveness. "I'm sorry," she said, voice trembling. "I made a mistake, and I can't imagine my life without you. Please, just give me another chance." I stared at her, numb, the weight of all that had happened settling heavily on my chest. In that moment, I realized that forgiving her would be a betrayal to myself. I'd already come too far to be dragged back into the pit of regret and pain. I told her as coldly as I could that I wasn't interested in her apologies, her empty promises, or her desperate attempts to cling to what was never really mine. But I wasn't finished yet. I had to ensure that this chapter was over once and for all. I decided to take matters into my own hands, channeling the anger and betrayal into something productive, a carefully orchestrated plan that would serve as both closure and retribution. I began by documenting every instance of her stalking. I installed discreet cameras, recorded the strange encounters, and even saved every digital footprint she left behind. I compiled a dossier that wasn't just evidence for the police, but a testament to my own strength and resilience. Every moment I recorded was a small victory against the ghost that once haunted my nights. I took the dossier to my lawyer, who advised me on my legal rights and helped secure a restraining order against her. The legal battle was grueling, but it was necessary. I wasn't doing this for vengeance alone. I was reclaiming my right to live without fear. The court's decision was swift, and soon enough, she was legally barred from coming near me. It wasn't just a legal win, it was a symbolic one, a definitive statement that I refused to be prey to her manipulative behavior any longer. Even as the restraining order took effect, Lisa continued her relentless pursuit. I learned that she had friends and acquaintances willing to push boundaries on her behalf, attempting to circumvent the law. But every time she tried to breach the barrier I'd built around my life, I was ready. I kept a detailed log, and every violation was met with immediate action. The satisfaction I felt when the authorities finally intervened was indescribable. Justice was being served, not just legally, but on a deeply personal level. The final act of my revenge wasn't a moment of explosive confrontation. It was a calculated move designed to dismantle the web of control she had once held over me. I arranged for a public seminar on stalking, personal security, and the importance of self-respect. A seminar where I was the guest speaker. I recounted my experience in meticulous detail, exposing the ways in which someone who had once been so close could turn into a menace. I didn't just tell my story, I used it as a cautionary tale. I made sure that every detail was backed by evidence, every accusation corroborated by the cold, hard facts of my experience. The seminar wasn't just cathartic, it was a public declaration that I was in charge of my own narrative now. After the seminar, the media got wind of my story. Suddenly, my ordeal was no longer a private nightmare. It was a national conversation about stalking and personal boundaries. Interviews, articles, and even podcasts followed. The widespread attention served two purposes. It emboldened me, and it ensured that Lisa's actions were known to everyone who once thought she was beyond reproach. The tables had turned. No longer was I the victim. I was the man who had reclaimed his life with dignity and resolve. In the months that followed, I watched as the ripple effects of my actions reshaped the community's understanding of personal safety and respect. I received messages of gratitude from others who had endured similar betrayals. Former acquaintances reached out, confessing that they too had sensed something off about Lisa long before she made her move on me. The vindication was sweet, a validation that my anger had been justified, that my pursuit of justice was not in vain. Yet, as the dust began to settle and I rebuilt the life I had nearly lost, I never let my guard down. The scars of betrayal ran deep, and while the legal battles had ended and the public spectacle had quieted, the memory of her deceit was a constant reminder of the price of misplaced trust. Every time I caught a glimpse of a familiar face in the mirror, I remembered how easily love can be twisted into a weapon. I knew that forgiveness was never an option, not when trust had been shattered so completely. The revenge wasn't just about making her pay, it was about proving to myself that I was stronger, smarter, and more resilient than anyone could have ever imagined. I've learned that true strength isn't measured by the wounds we endure, but by the courage to stand tall in the aftermath of betrayal. I've learned that when someone tries to break you, the most powerful response is to rebuild yourself even stronger. My journey from that painful day to now has been a testament to the fact that no one has the right to control your destiny. I refuse to be a victim, and I refuse to ever let anyone, especially someone as toxic as Lisa, dictate the terms of my happiness. Now, as I sit in the quiet of my new apartment, one that's been transformed into a sanctuary of self-assurance, I look back on everything that happened with a sense of grim satisfaction. I'm not celebrating revenge for the sake of cruelty. I'm celebrating the reclamation of my life. I've made peace with the past by choosing not to engage with it. I've chosen to write my own story, one where the antagonist is not forgiven, not because I harbor grudges, but because I have the strength to say that some wrongs are unforgivable. There are nights when the memory of her desperate pleas still echoes in my mind. I recall the look in her eyes, the betrayal, the anger, the realization that she had lost not only my trust, but my respect. I remember the helplessness that once consumed me and how, with every passing day, I replaced that with a hardened resolve. My heart may have been bruised, but it's far from broken. I'm more alive than ever, not because I've let go of the past, but because I've used it to forge a future where I'm in control. To anyone reading this who finds themselves in a similar nightmare, know that betrayal may shatter you, but it doesn't define you. The road to recovery is paved with hard choices and unwavering determination. I chose to leave, to rebuild, and to stand firm when confronted by a ghost from my past. I chose to let the world see my scars so that they might learn the price of betrayal and the power of reclaiming one's dignity. As for Lisa, I haven't heard from her in over a year now. The restraining order is still in effect, and every attempt she's made to contact me or breach the boundaries I've set has been met with swift legal action. Her parents, now thoroughly discredited, have faded into the background of a story that is no longer theirs to control. The finality of it all is a reminder that no one can rewrite your story once you've taken back the pen. I'm not here to revel in spite, but rather to share the journey from utter despair to complete empowerment. Every painful moment, every sleepless night spent wondering what went wrong, ultimately led me to a deeper understanding of myself. I discovered that true revenge isn't about lashing out. It's about refusing to be ensnared by someone else's deceit. It's about living your truth so unapologetically that those who tried to bring you down become nothing more than a cautionary tale. This isn't a dramatic romance where love conquers all. It's a story of harsh realities and tougher choices. It's about the moment when you decide that your self-worth is not up for negotiation. It's about the quiet satisfaction of knowing that you've risen above the wreckage of a relationship that was never meant to last. I've walked away, and in doing so, I've reclaimed everything that was once mine: my dignity, my peace, and my future. Looking back now, I'm filled with a sense of pride. I took a painful betrayal, turned it on its head, and built something lasting from its ruins. I became the hero of my own story by refusing to let anyone write the ending for me. And if there's one thing I want you to take away from this, it's that forgiveness is not always the answer. Sometimes, the best revenge is a life rebuilt with unwavering resolve, a life that stands as a testament to the fact that some betrayals are unforgivable. I share this story not out of bitterness, but as a reminder that the scars of betrayal can be the very marks of a warrior. They are the proof that you've fought hard, lost painfully, and yet managed to stand tall. I'm living proof that you can break free from the chains of someone else's mistakes. I've learned that sometimes the most satisfying revenge isn't a moment of explosive retaliation. It's the quiet, unyielding march forward into a life that's unequivocally yours. Now, every time I pass by a mirror or catch a fleeting shadow on a busy street, I remind myself that I'm no longer the man I once was. I'm someone who's learned that life doesn't give second chances to those who try to hurt you repeatedly. I'm someone who has carved out a space where the past has no power over me. And even if she tries one more time, I know that my resolve will only grow stronger. I will continue to live on my own terms with no regrets and no room for those who betrayed my trust. This is my truth, raw and unfiltered. It's a story of heartbreak and fury, of a love lost and a life reclaimed. I refuse to speak to Lisa, and I refuse to let her or anyone else dictate my worth. I've forged a future built on the principles of self-respect. And in that future, there's no space for betrayal, only for the unyielding strength of someone who has turned pain into power. I'm done being the victim. I'm done being haunted by the past. I'm done giving second chances to someone who never truly valued what we had. And as I sit here in the silence of a life finally reclaimed, I can't help but feel a profound sense of liberation. I'm free, and I'm stronger than ever. If you're reading this and find yourself struggling with similar demons, Remember that you have the power to decide your own fate. Choose to walk away from those who would chain you down. Choose to build a life where your worth is measured by your own standards. And above all, choose to be the master of your own destiny, because in the end, that is the most satisfying revenge of all. I know this story isn't a fairy tale. It's raw, it's real, and it's full of the kind of truth that cuts deep. But sometimes, that's exactly what we need to hear, to remind us that even when everything seems lost, we can always rise again, stronger and wiser. This is my story, and as hard as it was to live through, I wouldn't change a single moment. Every scar tells a story of survival, and every victory is a testament to the fact that we are stronger than the betrayals we endure. I've moved on, and I hope that by sharing my journey, you too can find the strength to reclaim your life from the ghosts of the past. I refuse to let anyone dim the light of my future, and neither should you. We owe it to ourselves to rise above, to never accept a life where our worth is questioned, and to live with the certainty that some betrayals are simply unforgivable. This is not just a tale of heartbreak, it's a story of transformation. A transformation that began the moment I decided I wouldn't be defined by someone else's mistakes. I reclaimed my power, and in doing so, I found the freedom that comes with knowing that I am enough, and that, in itself, is the sweetest revenge. I'm sharing this as a final word on the subject, a reminder that while betrayal may come uninvited, the strength to overcome it resides within each of us. I've closed the door on my past, and I've built a future where my happiness isn't hostage to someone else's misdeeds. And if that means standing alone, then so be it. I choose to live freely, fiercely, and unapologetically, with no regrets and no room for those who would betray my trust. This is my journey from betrayal to rebirth, from pain to empowerment. It's a story of how I took the worst that could be thrown at me and transformed it into the fuel that drives me forward every day. And if my story can help even one person find the strength to walk away from a toxic past, then I know that every painful moment was worth it. I'm done being defined by someone else's actions. I'm done being their victim. I'm done giving anyone the power to control my narrative. I am free now, and I will never look back.